survive and advance. The Rams beat the Panthers to advance the divisional round. We're going to tell you who they're going to play. Also, the Rams get some bad injury news. That's coming up next on Locked On Rams.
You are Locked On Rams, your daily Los Angeles Rams podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Ramily, and welcome to another episode of Locked On Rams, your daily podcast covering your Los Angeles Rams. Free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Locked On Rams, part of Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network, your team every day. We're also available over on YouTube. We picked up a lot of subs, lots of new fans to the channel. So stay subscribed, hit the notification bell. If you want to support every single episode, hit the like button, drop a comment down below. Also, podcast listeners, write us a review. We'll read on the show. My name is Doug McCain. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMAC_LA. I've covered LA sports for over a decade, 24/7 sports, Bleacher Report, SI, Dodgers Nation. And as always, I'm joined by the Rams pre-half and post-game show host for the Rams flagship radio station, ESPN 710 LA. He's in his 11th season covering your Los Angeles Rams, the People's Champ, Mr. Travis Rogers. You can follow him on X at Travis Rogers. And on today's show, we are reacting to the Rams' wild card win over the Panthers. The good, the bad, the scary. We'll get into all of it. It is a victory Monday. Don't get it twisted. A playoff win is a playoff win, no matter how it comes. But first, this episode of Locked On Rams brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel is officially in playoff mode. Every game day during the NFL playoffs, FanDuel is giving customers even more ways to get in on the action. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. All right, Travis, there's a lot to unpack in this one, but the Rams survive and they advance. And I know we can nitpick at the secondary. We can talk about going for it on fourth down. I still think that was a good play to try to make it a 3-score game. When they did, it felt like McVay, like he always does, he ditches the run and he gets pass happy. Bottom line, Matthew Stafford engineered his 4th career playoff game-winning drive. Bottom line is Colby Parkinson made a catch and had a 28% catch probability to save the day. Bottom line, Puka Nacua saved the day with incredible performance and just early in the 4th quarter, avoiding that interception for Matthew Stafford. The Rams made plays when they needed to. They beat a gutsy Panthers team, and they're now headed to Soldier Field in Chicago to take on the Bears in the divisional round.
Yeah, it was not what I think anybody was anticipating going into Carolina and getting a game that went down to the final seconds against a team that had lost more games than they had won all season long. But it's quite frankly, Doug, it's going to be a footnote to whatever happens next. They won the game. The details of how they won the game, we'll talk about them today. You and I will remember them because we talk about this stuff every day. But this is going to be one of those things. Was it way closer than anybody thought? Sure. Did they win? Yep. And they're on to the next round, and they got a chance to go to the NFC Championship game. And if things break a certain way, they could host an NFC Championship game at SoFi Stadium against the 49ers. So there's a lot of stuff that's going on. Matthew Stafford was awesome when he needed to be. I know we're all going to be looking at his hand to see how healthy that is moving forward. You mentioned Parkinson's catch. You mentioned Puka's PBU, which was unbelievable. But there were some problems as well. The same problems that have plagued the Rams through the course of the regular season, those things that flare up and have cost them some games along the way were evident. I think had they played like that against any other playoff team in that field, they're probably done. We're having a different show here on Monday morning. But they weren't. They were playing the Carolina Panthers. They won the game, and they get to play again.
Exactly, and that's the most important thing. And when you look back at this game, clearly the Rams have some issues still on special teams, getting a punt block that led to the Panthers taking the lead. They also had a Harrison Mevis kick, and they also didn't go for it. They also didn't kick a field goal and go for that kick when it was a 4th and 3 game. And yes, you go up 20. You could go up 20 to 7 in that situation, right? Yes, you can make it a 3-score game, but there were some moments in this game where it felt like Sean McVay was chasing points. There was some moments in this game where it felt like, I don't want to say he was getting greedy, but you still had a run game that was efficient with Blake Corum, Kyren Williams, even with Kevin Dotson out of this football game. And it just felt like the Rams towards the end of that first half, when everything was going their way, when it felt like they were going to make the Vegas prognosticators look right and look a lot of the picks right, where it looked like it was going to be a 10, 15, 20-point win, all of a sudden Sean McVay loses control of that game. They were up 17-7. They had a chance to go up double, and it was about halftime, and then it was at that point when you started to see it.
Yeah, so here's one of my pet peeves about sports broadcasters. And by the way, my hand's up. I'm one of these. You're one of these. And I know I try not to do this, and I know that you try not to do this, but I think this is one of these times where it's actually kind of fair to do it. And what I'm getting at is this: a decision like that is almost entirely going to be evaluated on whether or not it works. Right? Because if you do it and it works, good decision. If you do it and it doesn't work, bad decision. That's usually something that I completely dismiss. And I always use this analogy on my radio show. If I ran across the 405 freeway in the middle of the night and didn't get hit by a car, it doesn't make it a good decision. It means I got away with it, right? This is one of those things that his decision to go for it, I understand why he did it. That this was a chance to knock them out. This was the kill shot, that if they scored a touchdown at that particular point, that game is over. I do think you get one of those 3-4 touchdown blowout wins that we were hoping for. And I get the decision that, hey, I might be able to win the game in the second quarter. I might be able to put this thing away super early and end it. I understand that. But you better get it, because playoff games are weird. Points matter. That if you continue to stack points, and maybe it's my age, maybe it's just having watched football when no one ever went for it ever. Points are good, man. Taking points and putting them on the board, especially when you're the better team, I think is really important. I don't think that you have to try to push the envelope when you have the advantage schematically, when you have the advantage with talent, when you have the advantage in the coaching sidelines, like all of these things. So I would have liked to have seen them kick and take the 3 points and continue to build and stack that lead. I understand why he didn't do it, but the second it didn't work, it was one of those, man, that's 3 more points you don't get. They go down, they get some points of their own. So it was an interesting decision. And usually I'm not it didn't work, it's a bad decision. But I think this is one of those times where it didn't work. And now all of a sudden, what should have been a blowout, you got a tight game, and we know what happened after that.
Yeah, it's an interesting conversation just because I'm Mr. Fourth Down. Like, I am all about going for it on fourth down. The Rams, the 5th best team in the NFL when converting on fourth down. And on third down, they really struggled. They were 1 for 7 on third down in the game. They were 20th in the NFL on third down conversion rate. But on fourth down, they've been a lot better. And in that situation, it's a 17-7 game. 1:36 left to play in the second half. They're at the Panthers' 19-yard line, and Matthew Stafford rolls out a little bit. Looks like he possibly could have gotten it on the ground. Of course, he's a dude who has 1 rushing yard.
I don't think he gets it. That linebacker was right there. Because he's not going to make somebody miss, right? Like, I understand that maybe if he puts his head down and tries to pancake a guy, but do we really want Stafford to try to do? I've watched that play 100 times. I'm not sure he gets there. I really don't think so.
The only way he could have got there really is so he was basically throwing, right? And then the linebacker commits to that. Maybe if he like pump fakes and did enough shakes, spins, and then there's a backflip and a couple cartwheels, things like that. Maybe he does get there, but I'm with you. And look, here's the thing. I'm not running the risk of Matthew Stafford running in that situation because he's going to beat you with his arm, but that pass ultimately does fall incomplete to Tyler Higbee. But let's say that they do kick there and it's a 20-7 game, right? And it goes from a potentially 3-score game to a 2-score game. And I get what you're saying, right? It could be a go for the jugular. This is a blowout. This one's over. This is Indiana, Oregon territory. Who knows kind of where they're headed with that. But I also think, too, that sometimes you have to consider the situation. When you're on the road and you're trying to keep the crowd out of the game, when you're trying to not give a Panthers team any hope, it would have been okay to go for 3 there. I think, too, it's a long run. You want to give Harrison Mevis as much confidence as he can get. You want to know that you trust him in those situations. But like you point out, just because a decision didn't lead to the result that you wanted doesn't necessarily mean that's a bad decision, right? I mean, it's a kind of a coin flip, kind of that situation. And even though it would have led to a blowout there, right?
Yeah.
It would have led to a blowout there. I still think that if you kick a field goal and you make it there, we get the blowout in the third quarter. We maybe get a blowout in the fourth quarter. It would still have been a blowout win, in my estimation, had they just kicked and made that field goal.
It gave them life. It gave them this was one of those, oh, we're still in this. Oh, we still got a chance in this. And then when they went 3 and out, coming right out of halftime, when they got the ball back, had they kicked it, had they gone down, had they scored coming out of the third quarter, I think it's a very different outcome. And you mentioned something else that I want to throw in there. I know Harrison Mevis has made every kick he's tried other than one, but I'm still not convinced that the powers that be, Sean McVay, have complete faith in their kicking operation. We've seen it, right? We saw another punt get blocked. We've seen them fail so many times in the special teams. I don't think, and by the way, I don't necessarily disagree with this. I think he might be right with this, thought process, which is, who's the best player on this team? It's Matthew Stafford. I've got a play to make. Who would I like to make a play more than anyone else? I'll take my chances with Matthew Stafford, because if you had the Matt Gay kicking game that you had a few years ago, you might just kick it and kick it and kick it because you know it's an automatic 3. I don't think there is such a thing as an automatic 3 with the Rams at this point.
That certainly was a factor. I could not agree with him more, and that's something that is very telling about how Sean McVay feels about his special teams operation. But mentioning Stafford there, that's a really good segue, because Matthew Stafford had one of the coldest quotes that we've heard in a long time. That's coming up next on Locked On Rams.
This episode of Locked On Rams is brought to you by Prize Picks. Whether you're starting a new routine or jumping into player projections for the first time, trying something new can feel like a challenge. But with Prize Picks, it's always going to feel good to be right. With high-pressure football matchups every weekend, elite hoops action almost every night, the action never slows down, and Prize Picks lets you stay in control, because Prize Picks is the daily fantasy app that makes watching sports even more exciting by letting you build lineups based on player projections. That means no drafts, no waiting, just pick more or less and play your way. And getting started on Prize Picks, it's very quick. It's very simple. The app is super easy to navigate, and you love the flexibility with options like Flex Play, where you can still get paid even if one of your picks misses. So download the Prize Picks app today. Use the code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Let me tell you again. That's code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right.
And we are off and running here on Locked On Rams. Thank you for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single weekday. Free and available wherever your podcast. Locked On Rams, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Also, a reminder to join the Everydayers Club. Thank you for making Locked On Rams your first listen of the day. And thank you for making Locked On Rams the #1 sports podcast network. And now, if you want more Locked On Rams, you can join the Everyday Club. And this is something that I've heard from a lot of listeners that they're really liking, they're really loving. You get ad-free audio. It's compatible with Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and every other major podcast app. Also, an invite to the members-only Locked On Everyday Club Discord during the server. I think it's going to be awesome for fans during games where it's the halftime, where it's in between quarters, at the timeouts, where, hey, you can talk to other Rams fans, because you just got to, talk to someone, right? When you're nervous, you can get through this journey of Rams football together. So definitely join the.
Takes a village. We need to be in this together.
It really does. It really does. And look, the Rams are a team that is going to have nail biters, no doubt about it. And you can all bite your nails together in the Everydayers Club. So go over there and join, and we'll have more info in the details. But here, Travis, in our second segment. By the way, I was saying this during the weekend. I'm convinced at this point, Travis, the Rams could be playing an all-pro team, just all the complete Pro Bowl team, all the all-pros. They could be playing the 85 Bears, or they could be playing a high school team, and they're going to win or lose by 3 points. At this point, I'm just convinced it doesn't matter who the opponent is. They're going to win or lose by 3 points, and that's what makes this team just kind of terrifying to be a fan of. But here's the thing: it's never dull. It's always interesting with this.
It's been incredibly exciting, and I expect the game in Chicago. I mean, shoot, if you think the Rams play games like that, how about the Bears? Right?
Yeah,
I mean, the Bears are pulling rabbits out of their hat in the final 2 minutes all season long. I can't wait to see it. But yeah, I don't think that anybody's going to walk over anybody else. But hey, they get one more at least. Well, I don't have a lot of hair left to begin with, but whatever I have may be gone by the time we're done with the division round.
Absolutely, no. This is going to be quite a ride. They owe us a blowout. Let's put it that way. They owe us a comfortable win. Let's put it that way. But we got to talk about Matthew Stafford, because there was the good Matthew Stafford, there was the great Matthew Stafford, there was the struggling at times Matthew Stafford, but we'll start at the end and we'll work our way back. And I want to start with what Davante Adams said that Matthew Stafford said as they headed into that game-winning drive. And after the game, Davante said that Matthew told them, quote, "Let's go snatch these guys' hearts." And it wasn't just the hearts of the players of the Panthers, the coaches, but I think it was the 70,000 Panthers fans in attendance. He was a soul snatcher. He was a heart snatcher, and he goes 7 for 8 in that final drive. He hits Colby Parkinson, and it was just one of those moments where you kind of look back and you say, hey, if the Rams go on to win the Super Bowl, that could be a top 3 moment in this run. I mean, that's how important it was. When the Rams got the football, in that moment, they had around 28% chance of winning, right? I mean, their win probability was way down. And of course, you got the guy you won that situation. And he's someone that has really put himself in that group of quarterbacks that comes through. He has 6 playoff wins in his career. It's tied with Johnny Unitas, Bob Greasy, Fran Tarkenton. 4 of those 6 have come with game-winning drives. That's tied for the 5th most all-time with Dan Marino, Terry Bradshaw, and Ben Roethlisberger. Not only is he great, he's great when it matters most.
Yeah, what did you say? They had a 28% chance of winning? Is that the number that you threw out there?
Yeah, they were at, let's see. Yeah, they were at their win probability. Yeah, exactly. Right down there, 27.3%.
27.3%. This is why those numbers sometimes are a bunch of baloney. Because that 27.3% does not factor in who has the ball, who is the quarterback in that thing. That is just if this team is behind by this many points with this much time left on the clock, how often does it turn out a certain way? The answer is 27.3% of the time. Not if that guy's on the floor, on the field. No, it's way more than that. Now, if Bryce Young is your quarterback, maybe it's 27.3%. If Justin Herbert's your quarterback, maybe it's 27.3%. But not if it's Matthew Stafford, not if it's Joe Montana, not if it's John Elway, not if it's Aaron Rodgers. That's not. I mean, it's just there are certain guys that you could throw that number in the trash. When he got the ball back, and I think it was 2 minutes and 38 seconds, you knew you had the 2-minute warning, and they had 3 timeouts. They didn't even have to use one of their timeouts. Like it was incredible. They went down and did it. It was just boom, 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 boom. And then Parkinson made one of the great catches you're going to see. I mean, keep in mind that's a 6'7", 270-pound guy that just went up and mossed someone. It was an amazing play that he went out there and did it. But yeah, I mean, I don't want to say I felt great about it because they were behind with 2.5 minutes to go in the game, but 2.5 minutes, Matthew Stafford, basically 4 timeouts because you have the 2-minute warning in there. I would have been surprised had they not won the game. I think it was probably a 27% chance that they didn't win, and they did. He's that good, and that let's go snatch some hearts. That when you hear something like that, it kind of reminds me a little bit about that old story about when the 49ers were in the Super Bowl against the Bengals and Joe Montana walks in the huddle and goes, "Oh, look, there's John Candy." And everybody starts laughing because Montana's so chill. This is kind of the same thing. It's just like, let's go end this thing. Let's get the heck out of here. Let's fly home. Let's get out of this, this gray, rainy weather. And he is that guy. If you give him, we saw it last year in Philadelphia, that place was deathly quiet because they knew who had the ball in his hands at the end of the game. And had they picked up one extra block, I think they win that game. But this is who he is. This is why I believe he's the MVP. This is why I am in no hurry to move on to the post-Matthew Stafford era. He's that good of a quarterback.
You were different. I mean, I believe in Matthew Stafford more than anyone. I love him as much as anyone. Maybe his immediate family and close friends probably top that. But I was terrified. Here's what my Apple Watch told me. Your heart rate rose above 120 BPM while you seem to be inactive for 10 minutes. Okay. My watch sounded like it was about to detonate heading into that drive, just because I don't know, like it was just like I didn't want to have to think about the Seahawks game. I didn't want to have to think about what this season could have been, and I still think that they're in a position where, and we'll talk about kind of what's next for the Rams. They're in a position where you could face the Seahawks, and guess what? That'd be the ultimate opportunity that would put that regular season loss to bed forever. You never talk about it ever again till the end of time if you would go in and right your wrong there. So I everything's still on the table. But I think in that last drive, what really stood out to me was, it's one thing that Matthew Stafford is just cooking all game long, and he's just straight up balling. He's the MVP, like you said, but it was going from a guy that he looked a little Justin Herbert-like during stretches, in that he couldn't complete passes. He didn't look like he belonged. He looked like a complete choke artist in the playoffs and things like that. No, obviously not to that degree, but think about where he was in this one. Heading into the fourth quarter, Travis, Stafford was 4 for his last 19 for 47 yards and an interception. In the third quarter, Matthew Stafford, 2 for 10 for 24 yards. I was telling you how I thought that McVay was eagerly trying to get those missed points back in the end of the second half in the third quarter. Look at that first drive, 3 straight incompletions. And then all of a sudden, Stafford in the fourth quarter, 12 for 15, 143 yards, 2 touchdowns. And on that game-winning drive, as you point out, started at the 239 mark, goes 6 for 7. Don't do it, Travis. Do not do it, okay? Don't hit the 6-7 on me, but go ahead, do it if you want. But 6 for 7, there it is. 6 for 7 for 71 yards. That one incompletion was a drop essentially by Davante Adams. Like, he could not have been more locked in. And after he had targeted Puka and Davante Adams for most of the game, it's like he's willing to trust Colby Parkinson in that situation. I hate to throw the projections, the probabilities at you, but the probability of Colby Parkinson making that catch was around 27, 28%, just like their chance of winning. And I think for Colby Parkinson, we saw the catch against the Detroit Lions. He's another guy that comes up big in these situations.
It was an amazing catch by Parkinson, like full stop. Like, if that were a name, if George Kittle makes that catch, if Travis Kelce makes that catch, if one of those other big name tight ends in the NFL makes a catch like that, you are seeing it on an endless loop. But because Colby Parkinson is not on their level, right? Probably not going to the Hall of Fame like those other two guys. You just kind of, oh, cool. It was as good as you're ever going to see. So all the credit in the world to Parkinson. As far as Stafford struggling for a little bit, there's a flaw in my theory, but let me lay it out to you. I think that hand was giving him all sorts of problem, because I think he hit his first 8 passes of the day. Then he went, like you said, I think it was like 2 for 14 or something like that. And the ball wasn't even close. Like, his misses were really bad misses. And I just don't think that he had control of the football. I don't think he had feeling in his hand or whatever it is. The flaw in my plan is, though, then what changed at the end? I don't know if he just locked in and was able to kind of deal with the pain or whatever it was, but that he was awesome. He hit his hand on the Carolina player. He was bad for about 2 quarters after that. And then he locked back in again. I really do think maybe the pain subsided. I don't know what the theory to get it back was, but that it happened in such direct correlation with the thing before it that I can't help but think that he was just dealing with a bunch of pain for a period of time that affected the way he was throwing the ball.
No, man, look, Matthew Stafford, my man threw a game-winning touchdown with a separated shoulder when he was with the Detroit Lions, okay? He was not going to miss a single snap for banging his finger on a helmet, but he did start 8 for 8. Then he did start to struggle. They got some momentum, and they showed a close-up of it a couple different times during the broadcast, and you could see it was noticeably swollen. So after the game, he did say that the finger got bent back, and he said it wasn't great, but he also said that adrenaline started to kick in. So, yeah, adrenaline is just kind of the clutch gene for Stafford. He's an absolute warrior. And coming up next, we're going to talk about what's next for the Rams. Also, another warrior on this Rams team that might just be the best defensive back for the Rams. Forget Shohei Ohtani. There's a new two-way player in LA. That's coming up next on Locked On Rams.
What if sports were traded like markets? Now you can put your sports IQ to work in real time with Robinhood prediction markets. It's not you against the house. It's you participating in a live market. You can buy or sell your positions live all game long. Use your sports knowledge in the moments that matter. Robinhood prediction markets changes the game. It's people moving the action. So when momentum shifts, you can move with it, right? You always knew the game, but never had a dynamic way to apply that knowledge. Now you can actually take part live in a market powered by people. You're no longer just a spectator. Play-by-play, you decide. Trade every play with Robinhood. Now available across the U.S. Download the Robinhood app now to begin. Futures and cleared swaps. Trading involves significant risks and is not appropriate for everyone. Event contracts are offered by Robinhood Derivatives, LLC, a registered futures commission merchant and swap firm. Let's talk about FanDuel too, right? The wild card round still has a game left. We got one tonight. We got the division round, and FanDuel is officially in playoff mode. Every game day during the NFL playoffs, FanDuel is giving customers even more ways to get in on the action because right now, every NFL playoff game day, FanDuel users get a profit boost pack waiting for you inside the app, which means each game day, you'll see a pack loaded with multiple profit boosts that you can apply to the bets you like most. You open your profit boost pack first thing on game day and see what boosts you want to apply. The boosts, they let you lean into your game day instincts. So whether you're back in momentum, defense, quarterback play, coaching, the boost gives you more juice on the bet you already like instead of forcing you to bet something new. So you make your picks, then apply your profit boost to go after even bigger payouts while the playoffs get rolling. So visit FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL, and grab your profit boost pack every NFL playoff game day.
All right, Travis, so we'll get into Puka's incredible play that possibly saved the season, but we did get some breaking news just now, and that is that Ahkello Witherspoon, who broke his scapula again, is going on the injured reserve and is done for the season. We'll have a couple days to break this one down, but look, it's no secret that even with the Rams getting consistent pressure at almost a 50% clip, that secondary struggled with bigger physical receivers. Ahkello Witherspoon, Kobe Durant did have the interception, but Emmanuel Forbes, it just was not a good afternoon again for the secondary. But now they're going to be without their biggest cornerback and a guy that really stepped up last year in the playoffs in Ahkello Witherspoon. So no real way to sugarcoat this one. This is a blow.
It is. It absolutely is. And like you said, this was clearly the Achilles heel of their defense on Saturday afternoon against Carolina. And that's Bryce Young and the Carolina Panthers. That is a team that, look, I'll give them a lot of credit. They showed up and they competed really hard. I thought Bryce Young had a pretty darn good game, all things being considered. But Caleb Williams is better than Bryce Young. The Bears are better than the Carolina Panthers. And we're seeing the problems that the Rams are having in that back end. Losing Witherspoon, exacerbates those problems to be sure. Emmanuel Forbes is getting picked on. We've seen Kobe Durant get picked on. Quentin Lake came back, but quite frankly, did not really impact the game like I think a lot of us were hoping that he would. This is the soft spot of this Rams team. Special teams aside, we've talked about that, more than enough, but they're going to have to get some better coverage in the back half because even with that pressure, like you described, Bryce Young was able to take advantage of them. And if they continue to have that level of problem in the back end, they're not going to go to they have to get better between now and Sunday against the Bears.
They need to find something. They absolutely need to find something. And look, I've said it before on the show, the way the salary cap is, the way that teams are punished for drafting well, every team is going to have their weaknesses, but they need their strengths to become even stronger if they're going to do what we think they're capable of doing. Real quick, let's talk about Puka Nacua's breakup there, fourth quarter. He makes an adjustment on the ball. Looked like they were trying to take advantage of Nick Scott. And we'll talk a lot of Puka tomorrow, but one of the reasons why I have a lot of confidence and faith in this team is their best players are playoff players, are gamers, are guys that step up when it matters most. They're not like Justin Herbert. They're not like Keenan. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know why this is like a take a shot the Chargers show all of a sudden, but it's just so impressive. I mean, Puka's just that dude.
No, look, okay. So yes, it saved the game. Like just full stop. If that ball is intercepted, the Rams lose, right? I think we can all probably agree on that him punching that ball out, knocking it out, allowed them to keep playing, allowed them to score, allowed them to win the game. He also dropped a touchdown pass, right? Like that other one that that's a ball that Puka Nacua catches, 999 times out of 1,000, and he just missed it. And you could tell how frustrating it was for him after he missed it. But to your point, D-Mac, instead of AJ Browning this thing, okay, we'll go from Justin Herbert to AJ Brown. Instead of AJ Browning this thing and continuing to play like a dead dog, he went out and made a play that saved the game, right? That's the difference. That look, you're going to make mistakes. This is sports. You make mistakes. Sometimes you make brutal mistakes that can cost your team a game. But the really talented guys, the really, really good ones, continue to move forward. And Puka, if you would have said the defensive play of the game, Puka Nacua, you'd been, well, that's weird. I don't know how that could happen, but that's exactly what it was. Think about Devontae. Devontae dropped the ball too, and Devontae nearly got decapitated with that helmet shot, and he keeps coming forward. He keeps doing what he does. Like, they showed a great deal of resilience. They were 10.5-point favorites, biggest favorites in the Super Bowl era on the road. They were hanging by a thread in being the team that we wouldn't be talking about Herbert. We wouldn't be talking about AJ Brown. We'd be talking about the Rams absolutely, blowing themselves up, having a chance to go from the number 1 seed to losing to Carolina twice, and blah, 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 blah. Instead, their best guys stepped up in the best moments, and they get to play another game. It was real, real close.
Yeah, and they talk about that, right? Earn the right to play with another week with this group, right? And they always talk about how every year is different, and that's kind of a motivating factor for a lot of these guys. They want to just go to work with these guys they battle with for half a year at this point. But I mean, let's just not lose the sight of the fact. I mean, yes, he did have that drop, and it was a costly drop. He'll be the first guy to tell you that he should have caught that pass, and that's been a level up aspect of Puka's game this year. Is you haven't talked about Puka and dropping the football, which we did a couple years ago. He has 30 catches in his playoff career. That's tied with Larry Fitzgerald for the third most in a player's first 4 playoff games. Like he's just a massive dog, and I still think that Matthew Stafford is the best player on this team. He's the MVP. Matthew Stafford's the MVP of the Rams, but I think Puka Nacua is the heart and soul of the Rams. I truly believe that.
I couldn't agree more. Like Puka does the thing that I every time I watch him, I'm like, he's even better than I thought. And then you fast forward a couple of more games, you're like, he's even better than I thought after reflecting on it the first time. And then you get to the end of the season, you're like, not only is he better than I thought now, but he's probably the best wide receiver in football. We saw him get named to an all-pro team. He absolutely deserves it. He is, you're right, that without the quarterback and Matthew Stafford, the whole thing breaks down because that's just what NFL football is. But he is unequivocally the heart. And by the way, despite all that dumb, what he did a couple of weeks ago, his game went to another level. A lot of time guys do dumb stuff and they freak out and they get quiet. That guy said, blanket, I'm just going to keep going. And he's been even better since. He is a remarkable football player.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he's no doubt about it. He's responded with after that. After that, I'm saying, hey, Sean, why don't you let guys stream in the locker room at this point? And why you got to be, come on, lighten up, bro. Let him stream in his locker room. Let him do a live there. Relax, okay? Yeah. But, I totally agree. But on tomorrow's show, we're going to tell you why we think the Rams may have just lucked into the best, most favorable path to the Super Bowl. That's coming up tomorrow, but you'll have to wait. My name is Doug McCain. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMac_LA. You can follow the People's Champ, Mr. Travis Rogers, at Travis Rogers. Until next time, whose house? It's Locked on Rams House.